Hi, I'm Michelle Drake, and my husband Rich and I are the artists and craftsmen who created the Stations of the Cross for your parish, Our Lady of Snow. We completely enjoyed this process and am happy to share a little bit of the behind the scenes for you. So everything started out with an initial meeting with myself and Father Kevin. We talked about the overall look and feel. I took a look at the stations that are in your mother church to make sure that what I created when I was sketching wasn't too far of a departure from the style that your church is. I took a look around the church, and Father Kevin and I came to a decision about the type of wood that we would use, and then I began sketching. I brought a sample carving to the church for Father Kevin to take a look at, and he and Lorraine and I sat and talked about what they liked about it and what they might want to have changed. So our original sample was on a rectangular block and had a pocket arch in the middle like yours do. But Lorraine suggested an archway along the top on the outside, and so we incorporated that. Father Kevin wanted to have a Roman numeral at the top so that it was very easy for the children to be able to identify which station was which. And then we all agreed that having the lettering in the Roman numeral mirror the gold on the halo that I painted would be a great idea. So I got to work coming up with the general content. Father Kevin approved each of the pieces of artwork that would be the basis for the carvings and made adjustments as we needed to. So it was really a wonderfully collaborative process, and you definitely have his vision in my artwork and Rich's carving. The next step is taking those drawings and creating and translating them into a language that the machines that carve the initial rough cut can understand. So we shift over to a computer-aided design program that we use called Aspire, and convert the sketches into vectors like this. So after the vectors are created in the software, then we have to change it from 2D to 3D since they're carvings and they're not inlays. And so it's basically sculpting right on the computer and creating the dimension 3D that you see in the carvings. So at this point, my part of things is done until we get to the finished work. And I hand it over to Rich, who then creates the toolpaths from the file that I've created. So he chooses what bits carve in what way and how the machine has to be able to interpret the information. So now that we have the toolpaths, Rich will start the big CNC machine, which does the big bulk carving portions of the creation of the stations. So it's basically a humongous router that carves things out the way that an artist and craftsman tell them to. What comes out at the end is something that then needs finished and detailed work, but the major carving pieces are done. So let me show you a little bit of what that looks like. And while we are moving quickly through the whole process, the actual carving takes up to 12 hours for the machine to do. because it's such a complicated design, and we want all of that detail, as much detail as the machine can do. Once the CNC machine has done its work, then Rich does a overall rough sanding of the whole station. After that, then I go in with a small Dremel tool and do any of the fine detail work that needs to be carved out or needs to be smoothed out. After that, the paint comes, and I paint all of the halo. I paint the halo and all of the lettering, and then it goes for another sanding. I begin to do the oiling of the station. That's when the wood really comes to life and the design really comes to life. You start to see the difference in the paleness of the wood when it's untreated, and just putting a clear coat of oil on it. We do this a number of times until the finish is the way that we want it to be for you. We oil the back of it and we oil the front of it. Then Rich puts these anchor cleats on the back, and we're ready to hang the stations. The whole process of creating the stations is a very prayerful one. We consider how we create, how we pray. And so the work becomes an art of prayer. And hopefully you feel that when you're standing in front of the stations and praying the stations, that our prayer becomes your prayer.